We've recently seen around the world markets and financial innovation getting a bad rap. And before I talk about why, I want to thank Terry, my friend Dr. Pachuri, and my fellow panelists for giving me the opportunity to talk today. Although, as in the first day, I end up always as the last panelist, which makes me feel a little like Madonna's seventh husband. I know what I have to do, but I'm not sure I can make it interesting. So let me make it short and to the point. Financial innovation gets a bad rap these days. And it made me think a little bit about why it gets such a bad rap. And let me ask you, how many people in the room have heard of Henry Ford, the inventor of mass production? Anybody here heard of Luca Pacioli? By the way, he's not from The Godfather or any mafia movie, but does anybody know who he is? I'd offer the hypothesis that he makes Henry Ford look very small in terms of inventive activity. Luca Pacioli was the inventor, or is called the father of accounting. He enabled the Medicis in Renaissance Italy to emerge. Another financial innovation, the limited liability corporation, with the widespread use of the Dutch East India Company, allowed European hegemony for 500 years. Two financial inventions. Now, we hear a lot about derivatives and the harm that they have done. Let me first tell you what I think good derivatives are, then let me give you an environmental example of good derivatives. They are financial instruments, futures, options, that are derived from a particular commodity or a particular financial instrument. They are regulated, they are transparent, and they provide a risk transfer function. During the Great Recession in 2007 and 8, $400 trillion of those traded in 78 exchanges in 35 countries, no problems. The opaque markets were where the problems occurred. These markets have served in areas of drought today, allocating food, even at these record high prices for corn and soybeans. They've managed interest rate risk through the Great Recession with no banks failing. And most importantly, in addition to agriculture, energy, interest rate risk management, SO2 was a severe problem in the United States in the 1980s. Michael Douglas made movies called Black Rain. We instituted at that time a cap and trade program. Everybody was required to cut their emissions by 10%. But if Sonny was better at doing it than I was, he could cut by 20, and I could buy his excess reductions. He perhaps could easily modify his boilers. I couldn't. That program, for whatever reason, has gotten relegated to kind of ancient history, but it's really relevant here in India and perhaps any other countries that are suffering from the emissions associated with coal. We emitted 18 million tons in the 1980s. We're down to 3 million. People fought the program, saying if you put a cap on it, it'll make the United States competitive, it'll raise power prices. It did none of those. Last year, it cost $2 billion on a $16 trillion economy, and the reduced expenses associated with medical costs from lung disease in 1 year were lowered by $123 billion. I don't know of a social program that has that ratio of cost to benefits. In addition to that, 37,000 lives a year are saved by the reduction in acid rain in the United States. And that's because of the power of price to develop inventive activity by the GEs and Mitsubishis, technologies which could clean and scrub and do things like that. Let me conclude that I don't have a feeling of pessimism. Oh, we lost the last one, I think. I don't have the feeling of pessimism that markets aren't already starting to make that booster rocket work. Right now, as we speak, there are 7 exchanges in China that are doing cap and trade. 5 provinces and 2 cities, just as a beginning. Kazakhstan has announced a market. Korea has announced one. India has a PAT program. Rio has a pilot program. The European emissions are down 17% as opposed to the mandated target of 8%. I think that markets can be used for not only sustainability, but I believe the biggest challenge of the 21st century will be desertification and water. And I think we're seeing markets emerge in water in Australia, the Western United States, Canada. I think you can use them for endangered species and for other social objectives. So I think that rocket is flying. I just think people need to study the success of existing programs to just imagine the possibilities. Thank you.